Tour Guides. I'm Carrie.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Bree.
Today we are taking you on a tour of Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Sorry, I didn't study abroad there, so I didn't say it right.
Yeah, neither did I, but I have been to Barcelona twice. It's a fun city, man.
I've wanted to go since Cheetah Girls 2 came out.
Very fair representation, I feel like.
Yep.
For young people, it's a way to get you interested in traveling.
I was supposed to go when we studied abroad, but it was after, what was it, Ebola? The Ebola outbreak or something? There was an outbreak, and it was, like, really concentrated in, like, that area, I think. My dad was like, you're not going, and I'm like, but it's my money, and I'm out of the country.
Colin's poking in and saying hi.
Colin's here to say hello.
I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, you literally, like, closed the door when we started recording.
I'm putting in a thing. I'm going to see if it dampens the sound. Come on, Prue, get out of here.
I might sit on the floor and use your little thing.
Go for it.
We're gonna
Help
shift
yourself
a
to
second.
anything you would like in this room.
Bring in a different chair
No, it's fine.
or something?
I just want to feel more in the action. Ah!
Bye.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
It's like, okay, no one's dying. It's okay, I can move now.
Okay. Gotta get all my shit down here so I can pop shit open. That fits perfectly right there.
Continue your story.
That was pretty much it. My father was like, no, you can't go because death. And I was like, but my money and in a different country. But I was responsible and didn't go to another country where there's like a crazy outbreak or whatever and put people at risk or bullshit.
Ugh, responsibility.
Ew.
Gross.
Yeah. Well, I went once in high school and then once in college. And it's like a fun city. So the market there on Las Ramblas is like, I could spend hours and hours and hours in it. It's amazing. I have some like gorgeous pictures I'll post. Bree will post on the Instagram. I'll send her a couple of different things.
Accurate.
But like the Sagrada Familia. I went to like the little craft work thing that they have in the old 1992 Olympics.
Oh.
That they made, so it like showcases Spain, and it's kind of like Epcot, but for just Spain. It's in Barcelona. It's up in the mountains, really beautiful. Yeah, it's a lot of food, late nights, naps in the afternoon. So I was vibing.
Yeah,
I enjoyed.
Like, I already know I would love it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my cousin actually did both her master's and her... No. She studied abroad in undergrad and then also did her master's, I think, in Barcelona.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a fun city.
Yeah. Well, my favorite Spanish thing is cava. Because I love some good bubbles. And so we're going to have some today.
I love sparkling wines.
I literally saved popping the bottle so I could do it right now. So we're going to...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at the recording.
So... Love some good cava. We can pause and cut this out so I can pour real quick.
It's fine.
Yeah,
We're vibing.
Okay, we are vibing.
ASMR, wine time. Carrie, say your thing you always say. I promise I'm not peeing.
Oh, yeah.
But just...
Nita's listening. Nita's intrigued.
I promise I was
need to
pouring
finish the
real
last
slow.
bottle of cava that we had.
The last glass. We did start with one. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But one of my favorite things about cava is that it's made in the traditional style. So it's like champagne, but it's significantly cheaper because it's not champagne. So thanks, Spain. Appreciate that.
I love sparkling wines, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I like super dry sparkling wines. I like sweet sparkling wines. I like red sparkling wines. I like rosé sparkling wines. Just give me sparkling, bro.
Sparkling all the things.
My favorite.
Yes. So Barcelona is... Oh, here we go.
Said,
Just
nope.
kidding.
Give me the sparkling.
I decided to finish my previous glass and move on to this. I really do love bubbles, man.
It's so good.
Thank you.
All right, so Barcelona is located in the Catalunya wine region, which is known for cava.
Oh, I like this one better.
This was more expensive. So.
That makes sense.
But it's more expensive by like $2.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh man, that is good.
Yeah.
But it's known for cava and garnacha. And so I got a red blend. Other common grapes include Carignan, Tempranillo, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Syrah, and Trepat, which I wasn't familiar with this, but it's indigenous to the northeastern portion of Spain and is common in red blends alongside Garnacha and Tempranillo.
Delicious. I love Spanish red blends.
Yeah, and so those are the red grapes. And then for the white, we have Garnacha Blanca, Tzarlo, or Tzariello. It has a couple different spellings, but it's just a white grape. And then Pareada and Macabeo. And these are the white grapes. Those last three are primarily used for their cava. So this is a really unique wine region. As you can tell, it can support a vast variety of grapes.
If you just heard snapping, I cracked my neck and it was way louder than I thought it was going to be. So Bree, you don't have to edit that out. That's my bad. Sorry. It wasn't a microphone issue. That was just my spine.
That's just my spine.
It was like violently
I
loud.
heard it.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's pretty impressive. As someone with scoliosis, I'm impressed by how loud you cracked your neck.
Oh, girl, got all right. My joints always be popping.
But yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I kind of went a little overboard with the research, and I could have had a lot more and gone like super in depth because
This one's definitely better.
yeah, because these are probably two of my favorite varietal blend deals. That was really bad. I like wine.
Words, it's fine.
Words.
We haven't done wine in a while. It's nice.
Yeah. When did we do one? Whatever. So the Catalunya wine region. It is on the northeast corner of Spain, bordering France, and has 360 miles of Mediterranean coastline. Catalunya was the first wine region to earn the title of DO, or Denominatio d'Origine, or the designation of origin. Also, my Spanish is terrible.
Well,
I
and
was
this is
not
probably
allowed to study it in
Catalan.
college.
It
Thanks,
is.
Tech.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
mess
so
it up.
yeah.
Spanish. You know, we're two of us are almost fluent in Spanish,
I am
and this is not
gonna
Spanish. So get ready for me to screw up. I mean, I screw up Spanish
Yeah, so do I.
90% of the time, but just get ready for me to be real bad.
Yeah. That was literally like my predominant thought throughout all
So-
of my research and
Yeah.
reading. I'm like trying to practice these words, and I'm like, I'm going to
My
mess
my
this up,
dumb
and I
ass
know
my dumb
Spanish.
ass at 16 who got there, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was my first time out of the country, the very first place. So like Barcelona has like a place in my heart. The very first country I visited besides America was Barcelona. And so I got out and I'm like, oh my gosh, Spanish 3 in high school is really gonna serve me well here, guys. And I was like,
Nope.
that's not Spanish.
Different Spanish.
And I was like, oh my god, they speak Catalan, don't
Yeah.
they? And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm an idiot. So
Yeah. Well,
really fun.
I know none of it. I was not allowed to study it in college because thanks, Tech. Salty. Real salty.
Oh, it's almost like it's in Lubbock.
No, it's because the dean was an asshole and didn't tell anybody that he was resigning yet and didn't want to do the paperwork.
For Spanish?
Because with
In
my music
Texas?
with my music degree I have to do a romance language. Oh wait, it is a romance language. No, they wanted specifically French, German, or Italian.
Well, like,
But the wording of it was a romance language, and Spanish is a romance language, but they didn't
and
want to do the
Spanish
paperwork
is
to let me do it.
so helpful in our area.
Yeah.
But,
And then,
for
like,
real,
most of the
Spanish
world-
is a romance language because,
Right.
like, French, Spanish, and Italian. Do you have any idea how
They're so
similar they are?
interconnected.
Like,
Yeah.
They are romance languages.
Yeah.
Also, German is a romance language?
Yeah.
Ew. Oh, sorry, guys.
I love German.
That was offensive. I like German, but, like, I would never in my life imagine it being a romance language.
Well, it's not. It's Germanic.
That's what I thought. And the romance language are usually
Because, like, a
Latin.
German...
Yeah.
So, Romance languages are based
Roman.
in Rome. Yeah, they're variations of the Latin. It is a Germanic language, and
Yeah.
English is a Germanic language.
Yeah.
But German is not a romantic language.
Okay, thank you. I was like, no, I thought it was Germanic.
Like, German is my favorite language to sing in.
Oh, I
That's
love
my favorite
German.
language, period.
Yeah.
I love it. Anyway, since I was in the middle of that sentence when we got distracted,
Sorry. They were
We had a good talk.
side
But
notes.
we had to figure out something, and we figured it out.
So
Just
the
like when
title
cocaine was
of
popular.
Designation of Origin was a title that was created in 1999 to recognize the outstanding quality and consistency of wines in that area. Speaking of history, winemaking in this area is believed to date back to 400 BC when the Phoenicians and the Greeks came through trading.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Spain has had a lot of different immigrants in
yeah.
that area in particular.
And then the vineyards flourished under the Roman influence.
Of course.
Unfortunately, the Moorish occupation left the fields neglected or destroyed for other uses. But don't you worry, the
Moors didn't
Christians...
drink, right?
Right.
Okay.
But the Christians swept through and revitalized them because they needed wine for their monasteries and convents.
But
Sure.
it's against the religion unless it's the blood of Christ.
I mean,
Catholics drink.
Jesus'
Well, I know,
first miracle
Catholic.
was turning water to
Thank
wine.
you.
So
Thank you.
No,
I know.
yeah,
I'm trying to say it in
Catholicism-
modern
Yeah.
day.
Catholicism does not have any rules about alcohol consumption.
Oh, no.
It's just like Southern Baptist.
and it's more taboo because everyone knows that other people drink,
oh,
but
no
they
one,
just don't do it.
but also Catholicism, I feel like, is more deeply rooted in the Northeast in our country.
Yeah.
Because like Baptist church to Catholic church ratio in our area, it's significantly waving to a more Protestant type.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Well, speaking of our country, Catalonia has a fierce pride that made some websites... Excuse me, Bubbles. Bad burp. It made...
More wine ASMR.
It made some websites call it a country inside a country.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the Texas of Spain. Needless to say,
I was like, that's the most Texas shit I've ever heard in my
A
life.
Texan wrote this.
you're welcome. But in fact, in 2014, there was a vote to secede from Spain.
Like
Like
Vatican
Texas.
City kind of vibe, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like in the middle.
That was
No, it's on the edge.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
When
It's
you
on the
said
northeastern
Oh, because it's on the
edge.
ocean. Yeah, duh.
And it borders France. So it's literally that northeast
Yeah,
corner.
it does
Yeah.
work for France.
But it didn't happen, so, you know. Anyway, the grapes that are grown in soils that have high granite, chalk, and fractured slate. So there tends to be a lot of minerality in the wines. Also, due to the warm weather and types of grape varietals that thrive there, the wines tend to be higher in alcohol.
Oh.
So hang on a second, let me look here. I looked at it earlier. Our red tonight is 14.5. Most of them tend to be upwards of like 15, 16.
Wow.
But this is a blend, so it's a little lower. Within Catalonia, there is a sub-region called Priorat that is 90 miles southwest of Barcelona. Along the coast, I mistyped that, I'm so sorry. It's along the coast, and it's sort of like the Napa in the 80s. So it was pretty dilapidated. It had kind of secondhand wines, not great, but then recently it's really stepped up and now has some of the best wines in the area. A quote from Ricard Rofes, the winemaker at Scala Dei, Priorat's original monastic winery, which has roots that go back to the 12th century. Quote, Priorat wines are powerful, but they can be elegant and complex. You should be able to drink a good... I'm in the middle of a quote! Elegant and complex.
Powerful, yet elegant and complex. That's what I want on my tombstone.
I love how we're constantly planning for our deaths.
Oh, yeah.
We need to make a compilation one day.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay, continuing the quote. You should be able to drink a good wine when it's young, but the wines do evolve and age well for about 7 to 12 years. We're not drinking any 7 to 12-year-old wines, but, you know,
I think
it really
is
has come of
economical
itself.
to be able to, like, because we talked about this before about like the aging process of wines. Like, I think it's a very modern thing to like make good young wines because
Yeah. A lot
like,
of them
people
just
can
sat down in
afford.
cellars.
Yeah. Like, because people, it's not like we all have freaking wine cellars under our houses anymore.
You don't?
We
No.
millennials are too broke yet.
Millennials are too broke. Most millennials can't afford a house. We're very fortunate.
I can
so.
barely afford my apartment, okay?
Yeah.
So-
They're raising the rent to, like... Never mind. It's not good.
Rent is rough, guys.
It is.
Yeah. So 95% of cava comes from Catalonia, and of that, specifically, the Penedès region, which is about 56 kilometers west of Barcelona.
That's nothing.
No, it's pretty close. It's
Yeah.
about an hour away.
Yeah. But, like, to be growing that close to a major city, it's interesting.
So, Josep Raventos is the daddy of cava.
Ew.
You're welcome. He traveled through Europe in the 1860s promoting his own wine when he discovered champagne. So he decided to keep the traditional method of making sparkling wine, but use local Spanish grapes like the Xarel-lo, Pareja, and Macabeo. Of course, since it's not made in Champagne, France, it can't be called champagne. That doesn't mean that they didn't try, though. He called his original sparkling wine Catalan Champagne. Or Champagne.
So he tried.
He tried
to pull a
real
fast
hard.
one.
Yeah, but Champagne became protected, and they landed on the name cava because the Catalan word for cellar. Side note, we do love a good sparkling wine, but sometimes a good sparkling rosé just sounds nice. So rosé cava is made by adding red wine, whether Cabernet Sauvignon, Garnacha, or Monastrell, to the existing cava. Going back and comparing it a little more to its famous sibling, Champagne. Champagne and cava are both made in the traditional style, bottling a still wine, then adding yeast and sugar and letting it ferment in the bottles to create the bubbles. Now, Champagne has to age for 15 months to achieve its best flavors. However, cava only needs 9 months, which is why it's cheaper.
Like a human
Just
baby. Cava is a human baby.
So, when you get pregnant, get a still wine, put yeast and sugar in it, and let it ferment as you
do that.
but it does. Oh, hi, Colin.
I'm gonna pop it open after I. Oh yeah, I did notice that.
His phone.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have kids. I'll do that and I'll pop it open after I pop that little out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so most wine experts agree that if you're going to buy at least a good champagne, the price starts at about $40. For cava, however, you can get a good bottle for $15 to $20. And one of my favorites is actually the $7 Trader Joe's wine that we had earlier tonight, because it's first off $7, but also it's nice to drink by itself, but it makes really good cocktails.
Yeah. We had it with dinner.
Yes. So on to our second wine, the Garnacha or Grenache. I will use them pretty interchangeably because Garnacha is the Spanish term, but Grenache is what we have here. And in fact, on this bottle that I'm about to pop open because it gets to decant for about 30 minutes, it says Grenache on there. So here we go. We are gonna. Just kidding. Wow, this is really hard to open. Come here, you. This is not okay. Come on.
Oh my god! It erupted!
It exploded. I need help.
How does that even...
Colin!
This is why we need hardwood.
Only a few drops got on the carpet. Most of them landed on me.
You gonna get the pet thing in there?
Yeah.
Help! Wow, that very full bottle. Well, this is fun. What an exciting episode.
We're having just a few minor hardware issues.
It's tasty though.
Nita and I are just vibing.
That's good. I'm licking wine off my
I had a
hand.
very stressful afternoon at the vet, so.
We did have a stressful afternoon.
And I had to clean my closet. 2 very stressful things that happened today. Oh yeah, Prue attacked that roll of paper towel.
Sure did. She kept trying to eat it.
Can I get like 2 paper towels wiped off myself?
Good luck with that.
You spit, I'm a sit pussy before you stand. Oh.
Nita, it's okay. Do you like the blankie? You still shivering a little bit. This is for sweaty people. This is a bamboo fiber blanket because
That's fair though, because I like to be covered,
Yep.
but also
Yep.
sometimes I get too hot and I'm covered.
I get way too hot, but I love blankets.
Oh,
So I got this on Amazon. It's like $40. It's really nice. I got my mom one for Mother's Day. She
Nice.
loves it.
I don't. There's like literally 2 spots.
Are you gonna need more cat chewed paper towels?
Yes, please.
It's mostly her claws.
Nope, it was her mouth. I watched her.
She was going,
I didn't actually get it. It just worked. Oh, there we go.
I said, "Prue, stop," and she looked at me. Wait until I walk down the hallway to you, and then did it again.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
She knows what she's supposed to do. She does not care.
So yeah, literally 2 drops. It's fine. It's
Rollins
fine.
spilled paint all over here, so it's like
Well, and you're gonna replace this anyway.
eventually.
A nice sound of me removing the cork from. All right. Well, that was an adventure. Got to pop open the Grenache and have it explode on me. What an adventure. So that is our featured grape for our second wine. Here in Texas, it is definitely just a blending grape. It is not featured in any way. There is a ghost pushing open your door.
It's a cat.
Ah,
I think it's Prue Bear.
It is Prue Bear. Who else would it be?
Oh, what? Ollie!
Ollie.
Okay, shut the door. Ollie
Yeah.
can stay in.
Yeah.
baby girl.
Ollie, when you did that, she had a stressful day too.
Yeah.
She got sick. She's
She
sick,
don't feel
but now
good.
she's happy.
Just don't drink the wine, Ollie.
No. That
no,
would not help
that
your
would
UTI.
not.
Yeah.
No.
You're really won't. I messed up on you. It's okay.
Well, Bria has to sit on the floor now.
Brie gets to stand.
You're such a stinker, but you're a cute, brilliant, lovely little stinker. So I'll sit on the floor for you.
I really want to crack these open.
Yeah. Trader Joe's has Just the Lobsters, which is my personal favorite Trader Joe gummy product. I've tried them all.
Oh yes. I am
Has those
obsessed.
lobsters.
I'm gonna grab some quick.
I also bought some corn chowder. They have a new corn chowder brie.
Oh.
We're having soup and salad for dinner tomorrow night, so I got some corn chowder for me because I love corn chowder. Remember I made that for Boston.
Good.
Delicious.
Chowder.
It was good.
I had to milk the corn. It
Disgusting.
was a weird time.
Yeah. So here in Texas, Grenache is definitely a blending grape, but in Spain, it definitely takes center stage. So our red blend today is from the Terra Alta region in Catalonia. It is further west than the aforementioned Priorat. It's pretty much straight west at the edge of Catalonia. The blend is 55% Grenache, 20% Syrah, 15% Merlot, and 10% Samso. Now, I don't know what Samso was, so I looked it up. And it was not in my Wine Folly reference book as it's on varietal, but I did do a little bit of research, and Samso references Carignan or Cinsault. Carignan is very widely grown there, but it can refer to both of them. So Grenache is commonly blended with Syrah or Shiraz and Mourvedre, so much so that it became extremely popular, and now it's just called GSM. So if you ever see GSM, that is a Grenache Syrah Mourvedre blend.
Okay. Makes sense.
They have a lot of them here. Now about Grenache. Spain and France are the top 2 countries for Grenache growth. Within Spain, it's
Yes, pairs well with Scandinavian swimmers.
delightful. I already finished mine. Hurry up. But it's primarily grown in Priorat. The specific origin of Grenache is unclear, but we do know that. Okay, so the origin goes back and forth between a couple different places, whether it came in through traders, but it is very well documented that it originated from common use in Catalonia.
Gotcha.
I don't know what I was trying to type. I had a very distracted day. Anyway, of Spanish grapes, Garnacha, apologies, is the second most grown grape behind the Tempranillo. Garnacha thrived in the 1800s because the grapevine pest, just like mold, jumped from the native ones, but since Grenache was not native, it wasn't as affected. So a lot of vineyards went back and planted Garnacha grapes to then save their vineyards.
Adapt to survive.
So unfortunately, the grape took a hit in 1980s and 90s and fell out of favor, but it's making a comeback. Interestingly enough, countries like China, Mexico, and Israel have really embraced the Grenache grape. The grape produces a wine that is medium-bodied and has a deep ruby color. The flavor profile tends to include strawberry, raspberry, plum, blood orange, leather, white pepper, cinnamon, and dried herbs. Some say that it tastes kind of like a fruit roll-up or fruit leather.
Bruh.
Yum. I'm still a 5-year-old at heart when it comes to my palate.
Oh, yeah. And specific to Spanish Garnacha, you can expect higher alcohol, above 15%. Again, ours is a blend, so it's a little lower. With a lot of spice and notes of cherry and anise. Grenache is very versatile in its food pairings because it does tend to be blended a lot. But it's really good with slow cooked and fatty meats. It's also great to add to stews. So if you want to add that.
That's good to know because it was like, add some red wine to your stew meat or whatever. And I was like, I don't know what red wine. Let's just buy this and throw it in there.
So Grenache is really good for that. It also pairs really well with like slightly sweet foods and barbecue because it has that fruitiness and smokiness. And it pairs great with cheese.
Speaking of cheese, so I made a full meal, but I ate a lot when I was in Barcelona, and so I made something pretty simple. But I'm going to talk about 3 different foods. Next time, we may have to revisit Barcelona, honestly, because I was going to make bombas. And maybe I'll be brave enough to try a paella, which are
maybe we can do a mini-sode because my haunting is hard to come by.
Super interesting food culture, right? So we today have a Spanish omelet or a tortilla, which is essentially like a pan-cooked quiche, crustless quiche, or like a frittata. That you literally fry on the stove with white onion, parsley, potatoes, and eggs. It's a really simple meal. It's very inexpensive, and it looks pretty. And it kind of looks impressive, you know? So it would be great for a brunch. It only took me 10 minutes to actually cook. It was really not difficult to make, and it's basically like a pan-cooked frittata.
Oh, and olive oil.
Oh, and olive oil, yes. And they prefer you use olive oil from Spain. I had Italian, so that's what I used for this one.
Of course you did.
Yes, but olive oil is important. And I just put some fresh parsley and salt and pepper on top, and we were ready to go. So that is oftentimes served at room temperature as like a slice during tapas, which is an entire culture. I'm glancing off the top of it because, like I said, the food culture is very unique in Barcelona. I mean, there's the ham, so the Iberica ham, which is like in that market I was telling you about, just hangs. Also, it has a huge seafood culture because it's there, so paella, which is like a treasured Spanish dish. But I made the tortilla or the Spanish omelet because I love eggs, and we had our tortilla with manchego cheese. So to pair well, cheese. We love cheese here. We love cheese. Yes. Well, that was our technical main meal.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give you some fun facts about manchego cheese. Also, we served it with peach toast because we think of eggs as like a breakfast dish. I think in a Western culture a lot. Yeah. Even though this is served all times of the day, but we served it with toast with peaches because the region around Barcelona is the 9th largest producer of both peaches and nectarines in the world.
I love peaches.
Yeah, I love peaches and nectarines, and so we had some peach spread on our toast to honor that. And now I'm going to talk about the cheese, because wine and cheese, bro. That's where it's at. So, manchego cheese originates from La Mancha, which I had to do because Don Quixote, the Man of La Mancha, musical theater,
what
classic.
a good opera.
And play.
Yeah.
And musical.
Yeah.
So Don Quixote's from this area, and there are sheep involved.
And windmills.
Well, the sheep make the cheese. So Manchego, it has to be produced in an area that is restricted to very small provinces. So it's Albacete, Ciudad Real, Cuenca, and Toledo. Must be aged for a minimum of 30 days. And it has to be made from Manchega sheep milk, which is an ancient breed that thrives in the high plains of La Mancha. So it's...
God, now I'm going to go home and raid Don Quixote.
I have read it
More
this
of that
year.
cheese.
While eating cheese.
Yep.
And drinking wine.
Delicious. So it's slightly salty, pretty firm cheese. They have different ones. It's really low cheese in lactose, and it's really high in protein and calcium. And it also has vitamins A, D, and E. So it's actually like a really healthy cheese to eat.
So
I'm
I just
down.
buy this all the time because
Yeah.
it makes me nauseous.
Trader
and I need to
Joe's.
lose things. Osteoporosis.
Hey.
So it's a firm and compact consistency, buttery texture. It's white to ivory in color, depending on how long it was aged. And it's strong, creamy, tangy, nutty with a slightly salty taste, which is probably what they'll actually put on my tombstone. But I wanted to say that.
Thing was just so
Tangy, nutty, and slightly salty. Dang.
salty.
That'll end up on mine.
Yes.
Salty bee.
So it's actually my favorite sheep's milk cheese.
That's pretty good.
I tend to like saltier cheeses. Personally, I like salty flavors. Especially, I love fucking... Oh, I'm not supposed to swear. I love honey on my cheese. So, like, a salty cheese with the honey is always going to be my
that's why I
go-to.
kept putting the peach preserves on the cheese.
Yeah, it's delicious. So, I'm going to say a little bit about what to serve it with in case you want to have yourself a really nice wine
Ew.
and cheese night. Because wine, cava, and tempranillo are the two flavors of wine, or the varietals of wine that they recommend eating with this cheese.
Huh.
So it's like Spain got together and was like, bro, let's make an awesome wine and cheese pairing, and they did it, and good for them.
Because Spain.
Yep. So
Well, and there's a saying, if it grows together, it goes together.
Yeah.
So things from the same region tend to pair well.
yeah, so
So, like,
beer,
yeah.
it goes well with a blonde ale. Whiskey. So Scottish lowland whiskeys, they say, goes really well with younger Manchego cheese, and then an aged whiskey goes really well with an aged Manchego.
Yum.
And it says bourbon whiskey aged in charred oak barrels is sweet caramel and vanilla-like flavor that combos well with aged Manchego.
Yes, God bless. With that salt and the sweet, like you were saying.
And they also recommend eating it with dried fruit and hazelnuts.
Ooh,
And
that'd
kind
be
of
really
bring
good.
it in. Yeah, so like I said, I really like...
I could have
cheeses.
an entire meal around Manchego cheese.
Yeah, no, it's delicious.
No.
Probably not. But
I'll
like,
do that
also
down
want to
real
do
quick.
that. Yeah. Well, hazelnuts have that like earthy, kind of musty flavor to them that I feel like would go well. But yeah, we just like
But
ate a
not
block
Nutella.
of cheese. So it was really good, and like I said, the peach preserves. It was a pretty easy meal, and I think you could. I made it as traditional as possible. I did sprinkle a little bit of manchego in our Spanish omelet, which traditionally there's no cheese involved, but I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. I just really love cheese, so but it was easy and quick, and
Yeah.
needed to be because I was getting back late from the vet, and my cat is so smart. She is using the doorknob.
She really is. And I would open it, but I want to see if she actually opens it herself.
We'll keep you updated on my cat, who was literally making me and my husband panic about 4 hours ago, who now, after her antibiotic shot, seems to be thriving.
No, for real though, that works because I got a shot in my ass once when I had strep. And
Yep.
worked like
That's the
that.
only, I literally don't take over the counter antibiotics anymore because I can't. I just give me the shot. I used to be terrified of shots, and now I have to give myself shots. I don't even care. Just I'm done.
I was wondering earlier how that's been going. If you've been doing it yourself or
Yeah.
yeah.
I just don't have the time or energy.
Yeah.
And if I remember, I got to do it right away, or else I won't.
Yep.
Hi,
So,
baby.
yeah, that's our food. But like I said, Spanish cuisine is very varied. Because, I mean, it's not like they have a particular product that they use. I mean, they use potatoes, they use rice, they use seafood, they use pork, they use, like, beef. They have a ton of agriculture in their area, and they utilize all of it. So, it's delicious, and I couldn't find a birka ham anywhere near here. But I did try it from the markets, and it's like salty slivers of heaven. And I'm not usually a pork person.
Yeah.
But if it's salty, I'll eat it, apparently. It's what I learned today. So go eat some cheese, everyone.
Speaking
It's
of,
a natural preservative.
All right. So, Bree, what you got for us?
Well, first, let's see how well this food holds up against a bottle of wine each for the night.
fair.
Zach had 2 glasses.
Yeah, the first one we had.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you told me 3 earlier, so I was mentally preparing,
I mean,
which I didn't
technically,
used to have to do.
we had 3.
Well, and these are all lighter. It's gonna be this one that's gonna set you on your ass if something's gonna do it.
Okay. Well, also, you bitch had to work today, so yeah, I did my research, and you're getting it as I see it, pretty much. So,
No shame.
nope, none, because a paying job.
You know, little things.
Hans Christian Andersen visited
Ew.
in 1862, and he remarked that Barcelona was the Paris of Spain.
That's fair.
Okay, let's see what we got. So the first human settlements dated back to Neolithic times. Barcelona was actually founded by the Romans, who set up a colony called Barcino. I said it with a Spanish accent because Spain,
That's close enough.
but
Yeah.
Rome, whatever. At the end of the 1st century BC. And they had like 1,000 or so inhabitants. And they had a defensive wall.
Very
Always.
Roman.
Which you can still see some of the remains of that wall in the Old Town. So for over like 200 years, Barcelona was actually under Muslim rule.
The Moors.
And then
That goes
the
into mine.
Christian reconquered Barcelona, I guess, and it became a county of the Carolingian Empire and one of the main, I guess, homes of the court of the Crown of Aragon. The medieval period actually established Barcelona's position as the political and economic center of the Western Mediterranean. And the 13th to 15th centuries were apparently poppin'. If you go look at their Gothic quarter, and
It's beautiful.
yeah, that would be my first stop from everything I've read. So between the 15th and 18th centuries, Barcelona actually kind of went downhill. It struggled to, maintain its political and economic independence, but that struggle ended in 1714 when it fell to Bourbon troops in Catalonia's and Catalans' rights and privileges were suppressed.
Yikes.
Yeah. So a time of cultural recovery started in the mid-19th century with the development of the textile industry. And during that period, it was known as I think it's supposed to be like the Renaissance. How do you pronounce X's again? Renaissance? I don't
The
know.
Renaissance in Catalan.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it in Catalan, and I'm trying to remember how to say it in Spanish.
I'm okay.
But
It's so good.
Catalan regained prominence as a literary language. And then in the 20th century, widespread urban renewal came in throughout Barcelona, the city, and that's when the landmark, the Ejample district, it looks like example with an I in it.
That comes up in mine too.
That, which shows a lot of Barcelona's like
The
really
E
distinctive
example.
Catalan Art Nouveau and modernista buildings. Oh, yeah.
Gaudi
La
popped in
Sagrada
mine.
Familia.
That was actually the next line. So Anthony Gaudi
Almost like I read this research.
was one of the most eminent architects.
And he's in mine.
Well,
Gaudi?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's all over that city.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Literally
Yeah.
every other...
well, design buildings like Casa Mila, also known as La Pedrera. Is that related to yours at all? Okay.
I have some pictures of these buildings that I took
Yeah.
personally as well.
Which is Catalan for stone quarry. The Casa Batlló and the Sagrada Familia Church. And those are obviously known like worldwide
Yeah.
as famous landmarks.
They're super, super interesting and not at all like most Western architecture.
No, it's really
When you
cool.
look at it, it is art first, architecture second.
Love. And I love architecture.
I do too, but it's
I also
fascinating.
love art. So.
We'll talk a lot about that in mine.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So, and then while they may have achieved a lot of freedom during that period, it became really restricted during the Civil War in 1936 and the subsequent dictatorship. And with the reinstatement of the democracy in 1978, society in Barcelona regained its economic strength and the Catalan language was restored.
Oh, good.
So, and then, as Catherine mentioned earlier, the city hosted the 1992 Olympic Games. Yep, that was the sentence.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I thought I'd switch things around. Okay, but
Apparently it's just one of those days.
I know. I was like, my brain and my mouth were disconnected, and I thought anyway. So, potential restored to Barcelona and reaffirmed their status as a major metropolis. And then in 2004, the Forum of Cultures reclaimed industrial zones to convert them into residential districts. And we got some fun facts here. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but Sant Jordi is kind of like the Catalan Valentine's Day.
Aww.
So it's St. George's Day.
Yeah.
And Dia de Sant Jordi is a national Catalan holiday, and it's also called the Day of the Rose, which in Spanish is obviously Dia de la Rosa. But it's because of the amount of roses that you can find all over the city.
Yeah.
And
That's cute.
so there was a romantic gesture with St. George, which I will come to later in mythology. But essentially, their Valentine's Day, it's like women give men a rose, because it's also national or international holiday that celebrates books. It's Book Day, so Dia del Libro. So women give men a rose, and men give women nope.
Yes, I like this order.
Nope, it was the
I think it's
opposite.
wrong,
It
but
was
I
the
prefer
opposite
that
order.
way.
I know, because that's why I was confused, because I was thinking, no, I want it to be the other way. So women give men a book, and men give women a rose. There.
I want a book.
I know. So you're supposed to, do this between, lovers, loved ones, and friends. But yeah, so that's fun. We'll talk more about him later. Barcelona's beaches are artificial. So until 1992 with the Olympics, it was just like an industrial area.
Yeah,
And then they were like, no, we should probably, with the Olympics, promote tourism and make it pretty. And so they made a bunch of beaches. And so now
They have a super deep port. We took a boat, like a cruise ship, both times from Barcelona, actually. And it's just there. The water starts and there's a cruise ship. It's deep water. It's really interesting.
Well, and it says they have 7 beaches with a 4.5 kilometer coastline. But of course, on the beach area, in that area, they have restaurants, hotels, and bars because it's a beach. So yeah, July and August are actually the warmest months, and their temperatures are 25 to 31 degrees Celsius. And obviously, it has a Mediterranean climate, so
Yeah, it was
warm, dry, pretty,
hot.
amazing.
You need gelato and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Always need gelato. Always.
For those Americans who don't know Celsius, that's upper 90s.
I prefer 70s, mid 60s, mid 70s. That's my happy place. But I'm not gonna complain. No, I will complain. That's a lie. I live in Texas. Never mind. Moving on.
If it's not between 65 and 75,
Well, that's what I was saying. That's my happy
that's it.
place.
Only 10 degrees. Other than that, I will complain.
Oh man, I was so happy today. I went and sat out on my
Myself.
patio. It felt great.
So, the Columbus Monument. So, there are debates about, like, the way it points and why it points that way. So, the Columbus Monument was built in 1888 for the World Exposition. And then after Reconstruction, it was reopened in June of 2013. And it's like the center uniting two of the most important roads in Barcelona, the Passeig de Colón and the Ramblas, and which is right in front of the port of Barcelona. But there are different interpretations of the location that Columbus is pointing at. A lot of people think that it points towards America, but America's like in the complete opposite direction. And some people believe that the person who made it decided to create it with his hand pointing out to the sea to like showcase his achievements and stuff. Others say it points towards India because that was his original destination before stumbling upon America.
He missed.
Yeah, love it. And then others believe that it points out the route to, is it Genoa? I can never remember how to say it. Which a lot of people say is his hometown. So, who knows? But
It's not America.
The thing about football. We skipped the football.
Oh man, there was a big
It's a big deal in Barcelona. Continue.
Super big.
Yeah.
Not talking about it. Lo siento. Are you talking about the metro stations?
No.
Cool. So, 12 abandoned metro stations in Barcelona, and they are haunted.
Yes.
So, let's see. There are 12 abandoned stations between subway and commuter trains, and a lot of people like to go down to the ghost metro stations, and in 2011, there was a tour that went through the Lau Pau and Sagrada Familia line, which the Sagrada Familia apparently took longer to construct than...
It's still not done.
Yeah,
It's still not done.
freaking
Longer than the pyramid.
Pyramid of Giza. That took like 20 years, and this has taken over 2 centuries. Like, close.
It literally, well, so
I can't
his
count,
whole
so I
thing
don't
is
know.
like, it'll never be exactly perfect, so they're still working on it. Like,
I
Homeboy's
get
been
it.
dead for forever, and they're still doing his design. It's really interesting. I think they just don't want to finish it. I think they're like, this is our bit now.
Yeah.
This is our bit.
Which I get. It's a good bit.
That's a good bit.
But apparently the interesting thing about this tour is that it went through the Gaudi station, where a bunch of people said they saw shadows and shapes of ghosts.
I bet you it's Gaudi. He's like, finish my dang cathedral.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well,
so
and
speaking of Gaudi...
That's literally the extent of it, which is why I didn't cover it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of the ghost stories were they saw ghosts and shit, and then that was that. So.
Well, speaking of Gaudi, there's Gaudi's Alive House, Casa Mila. It was built in the early 20th century, and it's also called La Padrera, which is what I mentioned earlier. So after you go through the ticket booth, you'll find an ordinary, like, modern elevator that goes to a spiral staircase, and then it goes up to the roof. And on the roof, you can see, like, famous sculptural figures, and it also acts as like a ventilation shaft. But it was called the Alive House because the way it looked and its architecture, it has like bends and meanders and like swims, which makes it look like a living organism.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't like straight walls, that dude.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my story.
Okay.
Continue.
And then, so Barcelona is the only city that received a Royal Gold Medal for architecture in 1999. So it's awarded annually since 1848 by the Royal Institute of British Architects on behalf of the British monarch in recognition of a group or individual's contribution to international architecture. And so, yeah, they're the only one who has apparently received a Royal Gold Medal.
I mean, it is a fascinating looking city.
Yeah.
After looking at pictures, it's beautiful.
So here's some fun stuff that Catherine found just for me.
Mm-hmm.
We're skipping the football museum. I'll pick it up in a minute.
I dropped
I pick it up before we get to you. It's okay. The Erotic Museum.
I picked this article, like I read this article and I was like, well, sending that to Brie. She'll laugh at that. It's actually really interesting. I love museums of any type.
So do So it pays homage to the, quote, wonders of human sexuality. So, across the times and throughout civilizations, end quote. So, like, that would be super interesting.
No, it is. Yeah, I love museums.
So do I. But,
I
that
love
especially
museums.
would be like, damn.
Well, it's interesting because there's historical artifacts about it, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like historical old-timey dildos, you know?
Yeah, and that was my
Wooden
first
dildos.
thought was the old-timey dildos was like the freaking wooden or leather or god-awful gonna give me bad things in my vagina dildos. Yeah. All the pain. They were really into pleasure pain back then.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine's face. Okay, so it is located on La Rambla
I did.
Boulevard.
What? You don't like it?
I don't think so.
Ah!
And it's split up into two different
Some
areas,
geckos.
which are dedicated to
It's pretty
varying
dark.
aspects of human sexual history. So from ancient Rome to pinup culture of the 1950s, or
Cute.
the world of fetishism.
Ew.
Yeah. So there are apparently hundreds of items that they display, old and new, and original artwork by local artists and replicas of sexually themed artwork by famous artists. And I may include a picture of the entrance because it's erotic museum with an arrow pointing downwards on a balcony and a Marilyn Monroe lookalike. And it's very, like, pretty, like French blue with the little accents around the entrance. And
Appreciate.
roses and stuff. So.
Yeah.
There's also, because sex and chocolate, there's a chocolate museum. So it's inside a former monastery, and it pays
Cute.
homage to chocolate in various forms, apparently. The history of chocolate in Europe, from the introduction in the 15th century to modern advances. It's educational. It's fun. But it's chocolate, so.
I can't do it.
Catherine doesn't like the wine.
The red, it's too tart for me. I have a really low sour tart threshold,
you
though.
like sweet wines.
Or even,
I like
it's just,
you can have
there's,
that one then.
it's too much. There's too
I
much.
don't like it.
Have
It's
to drive home in the morning.
it's spicy.
If I'm having
Yeah.
mine and yours. Okay, and last of the museums, there are
There's a bit of
obviously
leather
many
in it
more,
though.
Mm-hmm.
but I'm making it interesting. Okay, there's a hashed marijuana and hemp museum.
Heyo.
So, the consumption of cannabis in private places is legal in Spain.
Nice.
So it has a reputation as a smoker's paradise. And there are over 200 private cannabis clubs just in the city alone.
Wow.
So this museum pays homage to the cannabis sativa family. Not just the psychoactive marijuana plant, but the hemp plant, which has also been used since the Vikings, apparently, to
For
build
ropes.
resistant materials such as sails and cloth.
Yeah, it's super, so like hemp fiber. So when I took that mariner archaeology course when I was studying abroad, like hemp fibers are literally super important on ships. Like historical ships. It's like super important because nothing else was strong enough.
Viking wasn't so much like a culture or ethnicity or whatever. It was more like a job description.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I meant because it's just a loose term.
Yeah.
No, I know.
We
But like
use
a
here,
lot
yeah.
of people often believe like Norse.
No.
Viking.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, there were Norse people
yes.
who were also Vikings.
Right. It's
Yes.
like being a white carpenter. It's just a job.
Yes. Anyway. So the museum has hundreds of items that relate to both the production and consumption of the marijuana plant. And artwork, apparently. A big selection of artwork.
It's an artsy city.
Yeah, it's Barcelona.
No, there's art everywhere. And like street performers on Las Rambas are really famous. I'm dying. It's fine. I'm not even drinking anything. Sometimes my throat just does this now. It's really fun. It's like, where are your tonsils? Gag. It's
I
not.
still have my tonsils and I do that.
Well, I used to do that because of my tonsils, but they're not there anymore, so I don't know why it's still happening. But yeah, it's like so artistic, and there's like a lot of like quirky little museums and
Adorable.
yeah, flower markets. Also, there's a whole section of Las Rambas that sells pets, like birds and hamsters and stuff. Like it's just street vendors selling pets, and I was like, bro, I couldn't live in Barcelona. I'd have like 1,800 pets.
I would 1,000% live in Barcelona and be okay with being the level of poor that I currently am and just loving life, man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't live like that in America, but in another country,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
city,
Mm-hmm.
I could do that. Anyway, Barcelona has 2 founding myths. The first one is linked to Greek mythology. And if it's true, that means Barcelona predates Rome by like 4.5 centuries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the legend says Heracles and his brother Hermes accompanied Jason and the Argonauts in search of the Golden Fleece. Ayo, Percy Jackson.
There's one.
A T. Oh no, I missed my mouth. How? It's a cavernous hole.
I wish I had a video of
That was
that.
sad. That was
So excited.
real sad. Oh my god.
Our last lobster has been devoured.
Nom 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 nom.
Delicious.
Yes, deliciosa. Anyway, as you hear me chomp.
It's lecker. It's German
Oh, I didn't
for it's delicious. It's lecker.
Okay, I didn't hear what you said, and I was like, okay.
Because I couldn't take Spanish in college.
Really? I don't think we covered that, Carrie.
Texas Tech.
Okay, so Heracles and Hermes went with Jason and the Argonauts for in search of the Golden Fleece, and they went out in a fleet of 9 ships, and one of them was lost in a storm in the middle of the Mediterranean. When they finally found it, it was moored near Montjuic. I don't know if that's how you say that. But it's a hill south of Barcelona. So, oh, jeez, thank you. I love food. So Heracles
I have
and
to
Hermes-
share, like, and actively share, regardless of when I think of it, because if not, I'm going to eat all of it.
No.
So you're welcome.
Heracles and Hermes were so in love with the area, apparently. They thought it was so amazing that they decided to build a new city there, which they called, I don't know if it's Barcelona or Barcelona, because, like, Italian, Greek, Spanish. But it's the 9th ship. The motherfucker that got lost.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Sorry, guys. I'm trying. I dropped cheese on my keyboard.
Won't be the first time, won't be the last.
The second myth,
We are struggling tonight.
affirms that Barcelona was founded in 230 BC by the Carthaginian general Hamilcar Barca? Hamilcar. Hamilton, we see you. Who named
Hamilton
it
and
Barcanon.
Burr.
Burr, sir. Okay. And then...
have the honor to be your obedient servant. Burr.
Burp.
Okay, so the area around Barcelona has been inhabited, like we said, since the Neolithic period, and archaeological evidence suggests that there may have been a settlement near what is now the center of Barcelona as early as 4000 BC. But like I said, it was founded by the Romans, who established Barcelona towards the end of the 1st century BC, and then during the 1st and 2nd century AD, they built a wall around the Roman city. And
Romans
it
do
wasn't
love
really,
their walls.
They do. It wasn't really changed until the Middle Ages. The Catalan flag is called La Senyera, and it has 4 red stripes on a yellow black background, which they said it's attributed to Wilfrid. These names, guys. Wait.
Oh,
Wilfrid the Hairy.
That's
Wait,
unfortunate.
it gets better. Who was the Count of Barcelona from 878 until he died in 897. And based on the legend, the Count was severely injured in battle when Charles the Bald.
Oh, that's
I
unfortunate.
shit you not.
Battle of the Baldy versus the Hairy.
He visited Wilfrid the Hairy in his tent and asked how he could, like, reward him for his heroic deeds. And Wilfrid was like, yo, give me a symbol to decorate the shield, which was at the end of his deathbed, apparently. And it says, the king wet his fingers with the count's blood and traced 4 vertical lines on the golden shield. And so then they incorporated the design of the coat of arms of Barcelona, and it became the Catalan flag.
Nice.
Oh.
And gross.
Yeah. So now we get to St. George. So, super old, obvi. So it's...
I wouldn't have guessed.
It's the story of a Roman knight who rescued a fair maiden from a dragon's lair.
Oh.
So based on the legend, he was traveling on horseback. He came to a town that this big bad dragon, hell, smog, was terrorizing. It wasn't actually smog, guys.
I
I'm just kidding.
see fire burning a mountain.
Randomness reference like a fit.
I see fire.
So in the Catalan version, the town was Mont Blanc, which is 125
Miro
kilometers.
fuego.
Barcelona. So to appease the dragon, the people started giving it 2 sheep a day, but the dragon wasn't happy with the sheep, so they started giving it people.
The Manchego sheep.
Yeah, we need to keep our sheepies.
Did they give him cheese? Bet you would have liked that.
No, it was sheep and people. But the king decreed that the person who should be sacrificed should be chosen at random until it was his daughter. Well, not until, because he still sacrificed her.
Oh!
So, she was chosen for sacrifice, and she was led to the dragon's lair, and St. George asked the princess, like, yo, what the F going on here? And she was like, this dragon
I'm
guy.
being sacrificed to this
And she
dragon.
was like, please leave before you're hurt. And he instead slew the dragon and saved the damsel.
But she was like sacrificing herself to save her people.
I don't know
I
if
think
it was a
she
willing
was
sacrifice. It was chosen. But, like, she also was like, yo,
Leave.
I'm being sacrificed, but, like, you should leave before you get hurt. So, like, go, princess. But
Save
he
your
then
people.
became the patron saint of Catalonia, and there are statues and carvings depicting the knight slaying the dragon all throughout Barcelona.
Sure.
St. George. So, St. George's Day, they gift roses and books, like I said earlier. Because
Awesome.
it was a romantic gesture. He saved the princess, the damsel in distress.
Ooh,
I mean, that's
a
kind
good
of a
book.
cute holiday, though.
It really is. I really like it.
As far as other holiday, like, that's pretty wholesome.
Like, Valentine's Day is,
Yeah.
like, ours is just like,
Eh.
there's a massacre.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Woo me with books.
For real. What's that? Oh, the Nose Man. L'Homme dels Nasos. He's a mythical man from Catalan folklore. He has as many noses as there are days left in the year. So on the 1st of January, he has 365 noses, and then he loses one each day of the year.
How does he lose the noses?
It does not say.
Oh.
But during most of the year, he hides and only comes out on December 31st. And on the morning of New Year's Eve, parents, as like a funny thing, will tell their kids to be on the lookout for a man with as many noses as there are days left in the year. New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So, like, kids will be looking for a dude with a bunch of noses, but, like, there's only one day left in the year.
Yeah.
So it's just
it
one
could be
nose.
anyone.
Cute.
Yeah.
But
That's
is it
actually
always
cute,
the
too.
one on his face? I'm just gonna poke holes in this.
I'm gonna leave it alone.
If he has as many noses, who's to say that that's not the first one to fall off?
I don't know, but this dude and his entourage show up throughout the city on December 31st, okay? It's kind of a cute, like, New Year's Eve tradition.
That is really cute.
The Curse of Liceu.
Sure.
So, Liceu Opera House was built in 1847.
Oh, I almost covered this, but I covered the theater last episode.
Cool. And it's located on Las Ramblas. It's about, like, halfway between Plaza de Catalunya and the Columbus Monument. And during the Middle Ages, it was used for public executions.
Solid.
Bro, I'm going to talk about public executions in mine.
Yeah.
The Spanish don't mess around when it comes to public execution methods.
Nope.
No. And during the 16th century, it was a Trinitarian convent that was built there.
Oh.
And then during the Peninsular War, the convent was seized by French troops. And after the war, it was recovered by the nuns before it was burnt down during political riots in 1835. And the legend says the opera house was built, when it was built, it was cursed by the nuns buried in the convent's basement. Because
You do
nuns,
not want
man.
nun ghosts.
Oh, man.
Nuns, man.
Mm-mm.
Sign me up.
And
I want to
apparently-
go
But
there.
they weren't happy that a theater replaced their home. So to date, it's burnt down 3 times. We've learned nothing from London.
Clearly.
So the first one occurred in
Episode
1861, the second in 1893 when anarchists detonated 2 bombs which killed
Oh.
20 people. And then the third was January of 1994. And yeah. So that's a thing. Let's see. Oh, the 13 tortures of Santa. We're going to go with you, Layla.
This story is kind of rough.
It's real rough, guys. So, she's a co-patron saint. She was born in 290 AD when the Romans were persecuting Christians. She was 13 years old, and she was
Oh.
brought before Publio Daciano, the governor of Barcelona, and he demanded she renounce her faith. She refused.
Christianity, yeah.
Yeah, she refused, and he sentenced her to 13 different types of torture. One for each year she was old. 13-year-old child.
Oh.
So, oh no, more cheese on my keyboard.
Torturing children, cheese.
The tortures included being flogged, immersed in an infected well, having her breasts cut off, walking across hot coals, being rolled down a street in a barrel full of broken glass and other sharp objects, crucifixion, and finally decapitation of a 13-year-old child.
What the fuck?
She was,
Sorry.
I've cussed multiple times. We've cut back from usual, though.
Mm.
We're doing better. We'll get there.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
was canonized in 663 AD, and her remains are buried in the cathedral's crypt. The festival of Santa Eulalia takes place on the 12th of February, and the celebrations last for 3 days. It includes fire runs, processions, human towers, and there's a street that I can't say, a lane, that she was allegedly rolled down the barrel in with the glass shards.
Ah.
And then there are also 13 geese of Barcelona Cathedral, and it looks like, so the cathedral is a 14th century cloister. It has several chapels and a patio with a small pond, and it's dedicated to her, and the cloisters are home to 13 white geese because the legend says when she was captured, she was tending a flock of geese in Sarria, which is now a neighborhood of Barcelona.
Ah.
The gargoyles of Barcelona Cathedral. So gargoyles are often on like roofs of medieval churches and cathedrals. So they're like these hollow stone tubes, and they drain rainwater from the roof to prevent it from like eroding the masonry and stuff. They're usually carved in forms of like griffins, dragons, and mythical creatures. So the legend says in the Middle Ages, during the annual Corpus Christi celebration, groups of witches used to gather
Not a witch.
surrounding Barcelona Cathedral in the streets, where they would like spit and shout at the processions.
Oh.
And it went on for like years until one day, quote, by divine intervention,
Oh.
the witches were turned to stone and they were put on the cathedral's rooftops, where they continue to spit on people as they walk by every time it rains.
I love that.
The bride of Santa Maria del Mar. So there was a young woman
I
who
saw
died on
this.
her wedding day. Her funeral took place in the Basilica of Santa Maria del Mar, and her family buried her dressed in her wedding dress and all of her fine jewelry and stuff. And when the ceremony was over, they all went home and they left the coffin in the church overnight.
Yep.
And 2 thieves broke into the church to steal her jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
But when they went to rip the earrings from her ears, they tore her earlobes off, and she screamed, and the thieves like crapped themselves.
Yeah,
and fled.
that's fair.
And so she was obviously revived by the pain, and she went home, and her family thought she was a ghost and was like, nah, you're not coming in.
Yep.
But her fiance realized she was alive, and they called a doctor, and he was like, she just had suffered a case of cataplexy.
Huh.
So despite that, the neighbors were super superstitious, and they were convinced that she'd been resurrected during the night.
That's a bummer. That You know, happy wedding day, but
But also, you can inspire terror for the rest of your life. Like, do what I want.
I'm a ghost. I curse you.
Not in like an evil way, but no, like a don't be a douchebag. Do what I want because I could mess you up because I'm a ghost.
You steal my earrings, I steal your soul.
Fair trade.
Don't take other people's stuff.
Yeah. The ghost of the Canaletas fountain. So it's known as the place where the Barca fans celebrate all of the victories. And the fountain's been there since the 16th century, but the one there now was inaugurated in 1860. And the most well-known legend says that anyone who drinks the water will fall in love with Barcelona and will always come back no matter how far away they go.
Oh.
And the other one says that in the 19th century, there was a ghost dressed in a black cape, because yes, queen, and she would walk up and down that stretch of the Ramblas, and one day she stopped at the fountain to talk to a group of like young women who were collecting water, and they were scared out of their minds, and then they wouldn't like leave their houses for a few days.
Oh, you know.
So eventually, like, a group of neighbors came together to, like, guard the fountain, but she never came back again, and she hasn't been seen since.
Huh.
Yes. Then there's the skull underneath, El Pont del Bisbe.
Mm.
So, there's a covered stone bridge, and it spans Carrer del Bisbe, and it's one of the most photographed sites in the Gothic Quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's way newer than, like, the other buildings in the area, and was built by Rubio in 1929. I don't know. He tore down. Oh no, his plan was to tear down all the non-Gothic buildings surrounding the Barcelona Cathedral to quote unquote beautify the area. Like, screw you, I love Gothic architecture. So it's less than a century old, but it's a Gothic style bridge and it's associated with a lot of different legends and superstitions, which are all connected to the skull and dagger motif that's on the underside of the bridge. Some say that the skull was his way of expressing like displeasure when his plan was rejected.
Fair.
And others say it's actually a skull and not just a stone carving. Another one says that the dagger that goes across the skull, if it's ever removed, Barcelona will be destroyed.
Oh.
And another one says that if you make a wish while walking backwards under the bridge and looking directly at the skull, then it'll come true.
Hmm.
Okay, almost done. The Alchemist House. This one's
Ooh.
real sad.
Oh.
During the Middle Ages, the Jewish community in Barcelona lived in a part of the city called El Cai, I believe. And the legend says that the building at number 8 Carrer de l'Arc de Sant Ramon del Cai belonged to an alchemist and his daughter. His daughter fell in love with a young Christian, and she knew her dad would disapprove, so they kept it a secret. But eventually she was tired of lying and wanted her lover to ask her father for her hand in marriage. Her lover refused, and so she broke up with him. He was pissed, and he went to the alchemist to get a poison that would kill his ex-lover, aka the alchemist's daughter. So, the alchemist, not knowing, prepared a rose impregnated with venom capable of killing someone with a single sniff, and then the next day, he found his daughter dead with the rose clasped loosely in her hand. Realizing what had happened, he put a curse on the house, and it stood empty ever since.
Joy.
Yeah.
That is really sad. Also,
So sad.
this boyfriend is definitely in the wrong.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Oh yeah. He's super an ass.
Bro.
Like.
She was
Yeah.
like, let's get married. And he was like, no. And she's like, fine then. And then he just killed her.
Yep.
Yikes.
Rude.
The Curse of Santa Maria del Pi. It's Pi, but I don't know kind of. Okay. So it was inaugurated in 1453, and it took like 150 years to build. Nope. And the legend said that it took so long because the church was cursed. Every time the bell tower was close to being completed, it collapsed and had to be rebuilt. And so eventually the master mason in charge of building the church made a deal with the devil and promised, as we've heard before, to let him have his soul.
This is very like keto.
Yeah.
Once the tower's 100th step was complete. But when it got to 99 steps, he started working on other parts of the church and decided to, build it so slowly that he would die of old age before he ever finished it.
Nice.
The devil was apparently so mad when that Master Mason's successor completed the tower, he stamped his hoof on the 100th step, leaving his footmark as a warning to anyone who dared to climb the tower, but ironically, it backfired because so many people climbed the tower to see the hoof print that eventually the vicar had to have it removed.
Nice.
I'm done.
Cool. So
Oh, you got your phone back.
we have a fun little ride as we talk about the Palau Güell, the Güell Palace, that earned the nickname Casa del Ave Maria or Casa del Miedo, the House of Fear.
The fact that we get excited about that.
Don't get too excited. I'm sorry. The building was commissioned in 1880 by Count Eusebi Güell to be one of the most luxurious buildings in Barcelona. So the building was existing. It was just vacant.
Gotcha.
And so a lifelong friend, Antoni Gaudi, rose to the occasion and completed the designs in 1886. So he finished up his touches on the house in 1888, but it took them another year to furnish the now immaculate house. The house is designed in a very personal style to Gaudi, incorporating his take on historical styles and the Moorish elements. Very Art Nouveau, but this was...
Which is like Barcelona all the way. It's Art Nouveau and Modernista.
Right. It was then built with the highest quality materials. The exterior facade was constructed using limestone from a quarry in Garraf that Count Güell owned. The two front gates are catenary arches standing almost 5 meters tall that are decorated with wrought iron containing the initials E and G for the owner, Eusebi Güell, with the shield of Catalonia. Real subtle.
Oh, with the blood swipes.
But it's in wrought iron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With the blood swipes, but it's in wrought iron.
Yeah, don't worry. So Gaudi incorporated marble columns, ceilings paneled in precious woods, elaborate ironwork, and stained glass windows. And then to complete the intricate building details, Güell had the finest paintings and furniture of the time. So just
Of course.
real elaborate. Going back to the palace, let's see. On the back side, you'll see wooden Venetian blinds decorated with ceramic. And there's a second-story balcony with a little pergola. That's real cute.
I do like a pergola.
It's very pleasant. Within his work, Gaudi used the trinquetes, or it's the technique of lining surfaces with irregular mosaic pieces.
Yep.
This was the first time he ever did it.
Got it.
So this is his
It's
first.
very much his vibe, though. So this
Yes.
is his first time doing it.
Yes. This technique was later often used in the modern... Catalan Art Nouveau. That one. The building itself is essentially a square, and each floor serves its own purpose. So, working from the bottom, the lowest level was used for traffic in and out of the palace. That's those two big archways. So they're big enough for the carriages to come in.
Oh.
And they could basically come and go. There was no maneuvering around in there. Because they had to have room for the stables, the warehouse, the coach house, and the caretaker's residence.
I just keep picturing a square version of the little palace from Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
It's not even the same style, but that's just what I keep picturing.
Yeah, but I can get it.
Yeah. Well, and the facade of it is really interesting because it gets almost less detailed as you go up. So the bottom floor is very ornate with that wrought iron work. The second floor has a lot of windows. We'll talk about that in a second and why that's unique. And then the third floor, fewer windows, but still a lot of windows and a little more plain. And then the top floor, fewer windows yet, and it's very plain. And then we have the roof that I'll talk about in a second.
Well, I mean, you want to impress your guests, so like entrances, that makes sense to be more ornate and whatnot.
But I mean, you can just see the whole facade.
Oh, like on the outside?
Yes,
even,
the facade, the outside.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought you were saying on the inside. Like
No.
I know what facade means.
Yeah,
But like I thought you were saying on the inside it was less ornate gradually as it like went higher. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, the outside.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. But the lowest level, I mean, it's really cool. They have the little archways that you can see, like, very clearly, this is where a carriage would come in and then, like, enter exit. Mm-hmm. And then on that ground floor between the two, on the inside, there's the grand staircase going up to the mezzanine level. So this was the floor for entertaining. Gaudi designed the space as sort of a courtyard and had little rooms for entertainment around each of the sides, but also it let a lot of light in. And so there were little salons, the front salon with the one that faced I think they said it was the north, but the front of the house was for public. You know, if they wanted to have little gatherings, they can go to that front saloon. It's not saloon, that was last week. Salons, and then they had the back one. Salon. Was for more, you know, informal family members and, you know, hanging out kind of deal. Mm-hmm. It was also the main space in the middle was used for concerts and ceremonies and social functions. But, bless you.
Sorry.
It also had a parabolic dome or spire.
Parabola!
That rose from this floor all the way up.
Word spire. I love the word spire.
Well, that's essentially what it was, but everyone kept calling it a parabolic dome, and I was like, it's not really a dome, it looks like a spire.
I just love that word.
But it's really cool because it's not just decorative, it lets a lot of light in.
Are my spire.
Dude, I almost made a parabola joke earlier when you were saying the Catalonian words, and I was like, so parabola, and then what was the other one? I think it was an N word. I don't know. But I almost made jokes, and I didn't. I withheld from the math jokes. I refrained. That's the word I was looking for.
We can make math jokes. We just are trying to cut back on naughty jokes.
Well, I didn't mean I refrained in that way. Like, I didn't take that much self-restraint.
But it's also on this level where there is a library and administrative offices, because he is a count and therefore had to have...
He was working.
Yeah. The third floor contains the living quarters. Gaudi designed the room for Güell and his wife that was very spacious, but unfortunately he did not design enough rooms for the family. Now this also makes sense because not all of them were living in this palace, but he did design them large enough to accommodate them if they wanted to stay, because they had their rooms and then the parlor. And so they were all like suites. So it was definitely big enough to fit a family. Now, imagine with me. So we had the main floor with the entertainment space, and then it has that spire rising from that, which means this next floor up has that spire going through it.
I feel like this is super phallic.
Not really. Think more of like the toddler ring game, where you have the base.
Oh, I get that. But
Okay.
It's more pyramid-y.
Right. Your mind is just in the gutter.
always.
Brianna.
We've talked about this.
That one wasn't bad. That one was allowed. Phallic is a word we used in my high school AP English class. I can use it on
fine.
the podcast.
It's fine.
In my AP World History class, we talked about an emperor who built his tomb when he was young, and then he got old and fat, and when they put them in his tomb, he exploded.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing and morbid and what?
At least he lived a good life, my dude.
Yeah.
Way to go out with a bang.
Gross. Anyway.
Ew.
So.
Wait, but like, I need to understand. What did you do to make this man? Like, at some point, you gotta just be like, no.
Maybe the pressure,
It not
like he,
fits.
when his
It not fits, it not sits.
It was a stone tomb. And so they couldn't just like make it bigger. And so they just wedged him down in there because it was his tomb.
It not fits. It not
He's dead. He didn't feel it. It's
Right.
fine.
And so they put the stone on top, and it literally just like sat there until all of a sudden it didn't just sit there.
Because when you decompose, it builds up the pressure, and
There's
enough
gas
room
and
for
bloat
air.
in it.
Well, yeah. You get ooey and gooey and
Can you imagine the person who was like, ah! And the person who's like, oh my god.
the smell.
Oh, yeah.
And the bits.
Ooh.
Smelly bits. Don't
Disgusting.
like smelly bits.
We do not like smelly bits.
No.
Wash all bits. All bits.
Anyway, so the top floor is the servants' quarters. This included their living space, supply rooms, kitchen, pantry, and washrooms. And again, the spire was going through the floor. So there was a hole in the middle that they had to walk around. In a not sexual nature.
I got you. God.
So, the roof is adorned with 18 chimneys, each unique in size and detail, but maintaining this general shape of fir trees. Which, not gonna lie, they do look like butt plugs.
Ew.
We got to it and it wasn't my fault.
Oh no, I specifically drew that out because of the previous comments.
I got that. But it still wasn't my fault. I didn't say it.
That was just for you, though.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
But they were all decorated with pieces of ceramic, glass, and marble. There are skylights in the spire that let down natural light to that main floor. And it said it looked like a planetarium, so I'm assuming that there was some sort of like pinhole lights to like just let little streams in. Wasn't real clear. It was really pretty though.
Now I just picture that toy you mentioned, the little kid's toy.
Oh yeah,
Like the
just
rings,
like poke
the
little
stacked
holes in the top.
rings.
Yeah, that's a pretty good reference right there. But make it square.
Oh, my mind doesn't like that. No.
But that's this house.
I don't care. I don't like it. They ruined it.
There's also a terrace on the roof for small gatherings, which is real cute. You get to be up there with all the colorful not butt plugs. And so then that's it for the palace and just the description of all the happenings in there. So,
Quick question.
answer.
Do we still get an R rating for butt plug mentions?
I don't know.
It was not a self-inflicted R rating.
None of it was me. Keep note, new listeners.
You supported my pink and the stink thing.
Well, vulva is technically a medical term. Butt plug is not.
I didn't say butt plugs. She said butt plug. Also, phallic is an education term.
I didn't say anything about phallic.
I did. Educational. It's fine.
I'm hung up on the butt plug situation we're
Gary.
on now.
Notice how it wasn't me. It was Gary. Ha.
I am commenting on the shape so that way if people know what butt plugs are, they can imagine the shape of all 18 of these
Or a
chimneys.
sconce on the end of your curtain rod also looks like that.
Curtain rod.
What kind of sconces do you have?
Curtain rods look like that.
Mine are flat.
Well, you can get flat ones, you can get round ones.
Or you can get butt plug shaped ones.
Yes! Look at them on Amazon.
They are wider at the base and they taper towards the end. There.
And they are not sharp.
Description. Ta-da! It not butt plug. We get a good description without butt plug.
That was the easiest description.
And kind of egg-ish on a stand shape. An egg cup shape. Egg in a cup.
Isn't that also a sex thing?
No.
Like those one
No,
jade
it's a
things?
breakfast thing.
It's a breakfast thing! They're called yoni eggs!
What?
You've never heard of a yoni egg?
No.
They're like, not just jade, but they're like, you gotta be careful with how you use them though, because people are like, new age, stick an egg up my thing. And you gotta be hygienic about it.
Well, yeah.
Yikes.
I'm not sticking an egg up there. There's already eggs up there.
Bigger egg. Significantly bigger egg.
Don't want that.
It better have a string that pulls it back out, because I'm
Right.
afraid to get lost.
Because also, like, there are muscles that can crush things. I don't want eggshell down there.
I crush a lot of things.
Anyway,
We went back to R.
so the Guels lived there until 1910 when they moved into another house that Gaudi built for them. Thanks, Gaudi. When they
Is
moved,
that where Gaudy comes from?
maybe,
Interesting.
I don't know.
Hmm.
That'd be a good connection though.
Yeah.
When Eusby's daughter Merce,
Sure.
inherited the house and lived there until 1945 when she sold it to the Depucacho de Barcelona, or the provincial government of Barcelona, who turned it into the Museum of Scenic Art.
Ooh.
So it was during this time, she didn't live there the whole time because of the Spanish Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And they took over Merce's home and turned it into the military barracks where they used the lowest level to interrogate the prisoner.
Oof.
Yes. So the first floor, once she sold it to the government, was not open to the public until 1976. So that was about 30 years after. So she sold it in 45, and then 76 was when they finally reopened the lowest floor. But they had to do several years of reconstruction, just getting it up to snuff.
I mean, they tortured people on the first floor, so I'd go with yeah.
Yeah. Real rough. The next restoration was between 1982 and 2002, directed by the Barcelona City Hall Historic Preservation Agency architect Antoni Gonzalez
I don't
Moreno.
want to hear anybody come at me about a name again.
Of the long name?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was the Barcelona City Hall Historic Preservation Agency architect Antonio Gonzalez Moreno.
This too much.
He has 3 names.
This.
His title was long.
No, I didn't mean his name. I was saying, like yesterday, y'all. when
Oh,
we were
right.
recording. Yeah, I meant that.
But it's the Barcelona City Hall.
Well, now that you shorten it for us.
But it's the specifics of it. So his reimagination is more of what it was because it wasn't really a restoration. He only kept one of the chimneys with the original trincades. I don't know how I said it earlier, but the mosaic technique
Oh, yeah.
of Gaudi. And so people are really upset about this because it was supposed to be a restoration and not a reimagination of what.
He was conservative. He had to get rid of all the butt plugs.
Oh no, they're still butt plugs.
I thought you said the fireplaces.
No, they just like
Or
redid
chimneys.
them.
I'm so confused.
There are 18 butt plugs on top of these.
I just want to talk about my vampire.
I am very close to being done, don't you worry. But it was also during this time span in 1986 when it became a World Heritage Site. All this to say, so before it was Palau Güell, it was the Casa del Ave Maria, but it earned the nickname of House of Fear. Those who lived nearby would hear screaming pouring out of the house every night.
Not great neighbors.
No, I was
No.
like, nobody just like, they just let it go.
I'm sure that they inquired and were like, hey, keep it down, bruss.
Well, not even that. Like, call the cops, go in with a shotgun, I don't know. Something.
I think I told you earlier, most of my research was like, there were ghosts.
Okay.
Okay, bye. This was one of those, but at least I could like find stuff about the thing. Yeah. But they would hear screaming pouring out, and then apparently it was just the site of horrific atrocities. And one article said like American Horror Story type.
Ooh.
Yeah, like real bad shit. And then all of a sudden, every inhabitant just abandoned the house. And so, we've talked before typically it's when things are renovated
Mm-hmm.
that the spirits freak out and are like, nope, this isn't how it was before. Get the fuck out of my house.
Because they were anxiety-riddled introverts who also don't deal with change.
Right. And, you know...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What?
That was sarcasm.
It was sarcasm.
Okay.
It was the driest sarcasm ever, but it was sarcasm. I've known this bitch for too long.
Was it too dry?
Well, like, I can only see part of your face because you're turned from me.
Oh, my face was dead. I had
Okay.
no emotion.
My face was dead.
Zero emotion.
Literally, I've just known this bitch for too long.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, so, you know, angry spirits, you know, when things are renovated. However, these apparently were really glad when it was renovated, I guess, to, like, remove the memories of their past, because as soon...
Or maybe they just weren't vibing with the decor.
Right.
fair.
And so, as soon as Gaudi started renovating it, the ghosts are like, okay, we good.
Maybe they were just a big fan of his work.
That's literally what one of the websites said. Architect by day, exorcist by night.
Cool.
Dude, but like, what if he had actually, like, secretly
He's really interesting.
designed
Yeah.
things into his architecture to, like, exercise?
Yeah,
He may have.
he's super
because
interesting.
With that mosaic technique, could like sneak things in there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the podcast we were listening to yesterday for Phoenix,
Yeah.
I was talking about how this guy had met another guy who was like native to the area, and he'd found some beads in like some abandoned cave or something,
Uh-huh.
and there were etchings on the beads. But then he submitted them to the Smithsonian, and there were like etchings within
In
the
the
etchings
etchings.
on the clay beads, and
Wild.
I was like, bro.
And they were it was in a Phoenician
Yeah,
or Polynesian. It was one
Oh.
of
I
the
think it
P
was
ones.
Phoenician.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
One of the P civilizations.
Yes.
Super interesting.
It was so interesting.
Okay, so true crime. Now there are two versions of the story. One is the murdery one, and the other one is somehow just as sad but not murdery.
Oh.
So, yeah, so I am talking about the vampire of Barcelona, who was either an absolutely horrific, violent child pimp and murderer
Yikes.
who used their bodies for witchcraft, or she is a mentally handicapped woman who is blamed for this and
Aw.
kind of created a dark aura around her, but she was just a handicapped woman who people created the story about.
Okay,
sad.
hello, I see you all of history, especially
Yeah.
including women.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so I'm going to tell the whole story, but know that none of this could be true, and she could have just been a handicapped woman that they decided to blame anything bad that was happening on. Because some sources say that there's literally zero evidence, and other sources say that there's evidence of at least 10 murder victims. So,
I'm gonna amend my previous statement. So not just women, all handicapped.
yes.
That was unfair of me to say.
Yes.
But like women of history were also.
Yeah. So that's just know that this is either real or completely fake. And it could be either, but it kind of verges into lore and hauntings and stuff, but it if she was a murderer, then it is in fact true crime. So we're going to pretend that that's what it is, and we're going with that. So this is in her murder spree was 1902 to 1912. She was arrested in 1912, and we'll talk about how she died in 1913. Okay? Her name was Enriqueta Martí. So I'm going to be calling her Martí. It's her last name. So she was born outside of Barcelona, and when she was younger, she moved into the city, and she started working as a maid and a nanny. Okay? So that's either where the origin started about her kidnapping children, or it's where she got the idea to kidnap children. It's one or the other. So she started working as a nanny. She actually ended up getting married to someone named Juan Pujalo, but they separated, got back together, separated, got back together. He said she was really volatile, and she would cheat on him all the time, and she would just lose her temper randomly. And so they like got back together. It says at least 6 times, and then were separated. But it was crazy. And they never had any kids, but that's important because she used to lie and say that some of the people she abducted were her kids.
I was gonna question.
Okay.
Yeah, but they never, he is like, we have not been together. If she had a child, it is not mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So she moved into the city. She started working at a brothel as a sex worker. And she from what I can tell, she enjoyed that line of work. She liked making her own money a lot.
That's fair though.
Yeah, and brothels I think were legal at this time, and there was it was like a booming business, and that's one of the reasons why her and her husband broke up, is because she enjoyed working and earning her own money and would kept going back to work.
Get your
in
money,
brothels.
Oh, isn't that remember when we talked about episode 1, Jack the Ripper,
Mm-hmm.
and our favorite suspect?
Yeah.
Yes. So she liked earning her own money. She found out that sex work was much more lucrative than being a maid.
What's like last week's episode with Big Nose Kate's Saloon?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the Birdcage Theater.
Yeah.
Well, there's more freedom.
Yeah.
You make your own money.
And in the early
yeah.
1900s, there wasn't really a lot of options for women.
Women had no agency.
Yeah. So she worked at a couple different brothels and then decided that she was just going to open up her own. So she owned 6 or 7 properties in Barcelona.
Wow.
First of all.
That's impressive for a woman in the earliest.
Yeah.
Nope.
Early 1900s.
So what she would do is she would dress really poor during the day and go beg on the streets and scope out. Oh, let me backtrack a little bit. So she worked at this brothel, and she started realizing that there were very wealthy elites who had particular interests. And
She knew her audience.
well, so I think she dealt with some other fetishes and things, and then she landed on pedophilia.
Damn it.
So she found out that she didn't have to do sex work. She could just pimp out children.
Not okay.
And so what she would do is she would dress up really poor, go beg on the streets, and notice which children were alone. And she would take the children.
Did you see a recent case about this? There's a guy trying to pimp out. It was an 8 or a 13-year-old.
Yep.
I can't remember what it was, but they were trying to pimp out
Yeah, well,
a
it's
child.
it's fairly common, especially some parents will even do it for their kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so she would just take kids off the street, and she would be like, "I'm your mom now," and she would dress them up and pimp them out. So she'd do that during the day, and then at night she would go to the super elite because she was wealthy. Mm-hmm. She'd go to the super elite and be like, "Oh, I have someone that may interest you," and network the children that she kidnapped.
Smart businesswoman, but a
No.
total piece of shit, and fuck you. I hate you.
Yeah, so if this is true, she's an absolute horrifying.
Oh yeah,
Piece of work.
Absolutely. I'm saying if it were something other than freaking selling children,
Yeah.
you would be a smart businesswoman.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
So,
a piece of shit.
Selling children.
Also, it's known that she practiced witchcraft. So she had this market, this clientele of the super elite. So there was a big tuberculosis outbreak. And so she started using children that weren't, I don't want to say desirable, but I don't know what else to say, weren't profitable for her. So she would kill them and use their hair, their bones, their blood, and their fat. And she would create potions and jellies and all sorts of stuff to sell to the rich that were, this will make you look young. And that's why she was called the vampire, because she would drink the blood of some of her victims. And she would also sell the blood, bottled, for people to drink and to use on their face and stuff to make them young.
So not entirely implausible. But
No.
I feel like this is what you started with which is potential bullshit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know. I can only say the research, but I did want to start with the fact that this could all be lies. Yeah.
And there was, historical use of people using
for
fat
sure.
for
Well, that's what I'm saying.
lotions
Not
and things.
entirely, wrong. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I feel like this would definitely be something easy to say, especially during this time, to be like, pin this on a female. Be like,
Right.
she does all these horrific things to children.
Right.
Yeah. She is a part of culture now as like a nightmare kind of Slender Man type situation. But how much of it is real, we don't know.
Right.
So there's something called Tragic Week, which was like a big uprising in 1909, and she was actually arrested. And I just want to point this out. Like I said, she had a ton of properties, but this one was on Minerva Street, which just makes me think of McGonagall. So she was arrested of running a brothel that offered sexual services from children between the ages of 3 and 14.
What the ever-loving F? I'm not allowed to cuss anymore, but this is like...
Yeah.
I should be given an exception for that, because
that is
obscene. But she was never brought to trial at this point because of her connections with the wealthy elite.
I hate everyone and everything. Because of course, because that's still how it works. But what?
Yeah.
3 years old?
So, and she would just hike up her prices and be like, this is the fat from a 5-year-old. If you rub this on your feet, you won't get tuberculosis or like
how
whatever.
do you decide? Oh God, like this is gross to say, but like how can you decide at 5 years old whether one is desirable or not? Because you said the undesirable
I have no
ones
idea.
were used for 5, but like,
And if anyone caused problems,
say to begin with,
if anyone caused problems, she would. Yeah. So, and how she got caught? Different house in 1912. She kidnapped her last victim, which they are 100% sure that she actually kidnapped this girl. But it could have been mental illness. She took this girl thinking it was her daughter for real.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the only thing that they actually have
on her.
Yes. For sure. Well, for sure. Like I said, there's forensic evidence for all of this, but I have no idea.
It's also 1919.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. They can't DNA test to know that this is human. So like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so a neighbor saw 2 little girls playing through an open window in her house, and the neighbor was like, "Oh, do you have a little girl?" And she just like didn't say anything and shut the door or like closed the curtains. And so the neighbor mentioned it to someone, and they called the police. And the police said that there had been complaints of chickens in her house. Because like you couldn't keep chickens within city limits.
Yeah,
and that well, that was how they got into her house without like a warrant kind of situation.
Yeah,
because I don't think they could be like, "Are you kidnapping children?" And so she let them go into the house because she thought they were looking for chickens, and she's like, "What the no?" And so they went in, and there was the 2 little girls.
So the neighbor lied in order to allow them into the premises.
No, she let them in.
Well, I know, but the neighbor lied to the cops.
No, the neighbor told them, and the cops lied.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so they found the little girl, and one's name was Teresita Guitard Conguest, and the other little girl was just called Angelita. And she'd had Angelita for a long time, and they don't really know where she came from, but she called her mom. Like she had been raising her. The little girl, she like cut their hair when they first got there to like change their appearances. Yeah. She told her that you have to call me. She said, "Call me mom." And she would like pinch them rather than beat them so they wouldn't have bruises or something.
Which is not uncommon.
No. For as far as kidnapping, Stockholm syndrome stuff, this is pretty basic. Take away their sense of identity. Say that you're now their family. Beat them in ways that they can't torture them in ways that you don't have lasting physical thing. It's very common.
Isn't even uncommon in modern day.
No
physical abuse.
No,
like biological parents or otherwise.
Yeah. So
can't show signs.
The girls they were fed and they had like toys, but the girls used to go and sneak around and they found blood on little girls' clothes and a knife that had blood on it. And so Angelita had been there longer And so when the police asked her, they showed the police where the bloody clothes were. They showed the police where the knife was. And she said there was a 5-year-old boy named Pepito was there. But apparently Marti killed him on the kitchen table to use for rituals. And Angelita saw it. So she told the police that happened. But they could never find out, right?
Yeah. Couldn't find his remains
and so
or
half of them are
anything.
like, she sold his remains as potions. The other people are like, there were no remains because she didn't kill anyone. So that's, again, kind of what it is. So,
Which is interesting in the early 20th century that people would even, like, come to her defense, especially, like, as a brothel owner, as a, like, multiple property
Well,
owner,
I think
as
it's
a
just
female in the
a
early
lot of
20th
gossip.
century. Yeah.
Yeah.
like, it was a juicy story, one way or the other. As
Well, yeah.
horrible as it is, people love scandal, and you can't get much worse than this.
Well, yeah.
So, they found bones. Some people say they did, some people say they didn't. Some people say they were just, like, pork bones and stuff, because she did, like, magic-y stuff, but it was, like, not human sacrifice.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. In terms of gossip, you would think
Yeah.
people would automatically be like, no, it was human sacrifice.
Yeah. And so they found pitchers, jars filled with things like lard, blood, hair, powdered bone. But again, how do you tell that that's human?
Right.
Also, she could have just been curious and, like,
Yeah, I mean,
essentially, like, you know,
I think
science.
either way she was ill on some
Well,
level.
yeah, absolutely.
And so, but like, people keep, so, and I'll tell you why there was so much blood, like, found on her, in her house, why some people think that it wasn't murdery blood.
Okay.
So they did find blood stains on the ground. For sure, that is something they have proof of. So she had uterine cancer and would have vaginal hemorrhaging really frequently.
Oh, no.
So a lot of people said that she could have just been trying to, like, she
Yeah.
would just bleed pretty profusely and was in a lot of pain. And that could have been part of the problem. So they found, but they can't DNA test in 1912 to figure out if it's her blood or not.
Right.
So, but she had, like, stage 4 advanced uterine cancer that was causing severe bleeding. So they just can't figure out exactly what it was, right? They searched all of her apartments, and that little girl went home. So they don't know why she was a victim regardless, but they don't know if it was like this is my kid. I actually think that this is my kid.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
if it was very, very nefarious. So, she was imprisoned in the Reina Amalia jail to await trial. She tried to commit suicide by using a knife made out of wood. She tried to slit her wrist with wood. The public freaked out. They wanted her to face trial. And so she was obviously put on suicide watch. She was never left alone. But 3 inmates were sharing a cell with her. They had instructions to uncover a bed when she'd covered herself to hide any suicide attempt. So they kind of were, like, on guard to watch her. So she never was tried for her crimes, however. She died a year and 3 months after her arrest at the hands of her prison mates. So her companions in prison killed her by lynching her on one of the prison patios.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
What?
yeah.
So pedophiles are often.
Yes.
She wasn't
Right.
necessarily a pedophile herself.
No,
but
she
she
should be
sold
on a
children
list.
For,
She should be on the list
Right.
somewhere.
yeah, so pedophiles are often, you know,
Yeah.
there is
Especially in a woman's
retribution
prison, I feel like.
in prison from fellow
Yeah.
prisoners. But
Yeah.
with all of this, in this case, it's not necessarily clear whether it's true or not.
Yeah, and at this point, she could have thought it was true.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, who knows? But they literally just, like, grabbed a hold of her and lynched her.
Oh, my goodness.
In the courtyard. But they wrote down that she died from uterine cancer.
Well, it's interesting.
Nice.
Because she had uterine cancer,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's interesting that not only were they able to get the supplies to do that, which I know people in prison are freaking, you know, like, innovative
Crafty,
and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, they were able to have the time to freaking lynch her without anyone coming to stop them. And then they recorded it as uterine cancer.
Yeah.
That's suspicious.
Yeah. So,
Sus.
she's buried in Barcelona still in a group grave. So when people questioned her, and this is why there's a lot of thing about the presence of bones and all the potions, blood and stuff. So they found burnt bones, and like the forensic of the time were able to be like, this is bone that's been burnt, right? She argued that she was studying human anatomy. She said that she was a healer. And then during interrogation, she said she used children as raw material. She also claimed to be an expert, knew how to make the best remedies, and that she was highly sought after. She disclosed the locations of her other flats and told them where to look inside. She was confessed her services as a procurer for pedophiles, but she couldn't name a single customer, and they said she was doing that because she was angry that she was going to get tried.
Yeah.
But she also could not have had any.
Right.
Like, every time I read a source, I go back and forth on whether or not this is true.
Well,
It's really convoluted.
because it could be like customer assurance of like, I'm not going to tell
Yeah.
people who you are, but also like,
But
she
if
could
she's
have just
dying, who
not had
cares? Like,
customers.
that's
They
my
wanted to
thing.
garrote her, which is how they, how the government, what is it called? Executed
Yeah.
people. They would tie them in a chair and garrote them to death.
Which we talked about earlier, and I landed on the side of that is significantly worse than being hanged, because like if they do it properly when you're hanged, it goes quickly. But like
Right.
garroting is like a torturous, ongoing,
Right.
painful process. And like Catherine pointed out, it's like
Ugh.
for the executioner essentially, there is like direct, ongoing involvement for a length of time.
Yeah. Gross.
So this is a well-known story in Barcelona, and I'm wondering if they view it as like a folk store or like, I don't know. It's really interesting.
It is.
I like I said, it's not so long ago that I feel like we should have a real scientifically provable answer,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't.
Yeah.
So, I think the general consensus is that she did this. But, yeah. So, there she is. The Vampire of Barcelona.
Scary.
Yeah. It's dark.
Yeah.
Even if it's fake, it's super dark. Someone had to create that whole story.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you also have to look at like things like American Horror Story, which are
Right. Yeah.
people's minds are very, very interesting in a deeply dark and twisted way.
Yeah. Well, on that note, go get you some wine and cheese.
Cheese.
We hope you enjoyed your dark tour of Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Barcelona. Adios.
I love how you ended on
Say,
ciao, bitches.
say cheese.
We out. Follow us on Instagram at Darkside Tour Guides and on Twitter at Darkside Guides. Give us a like on Facebook at Darkside Tour Guides. Visit the blog at darksidetourguide.wordpress.com or email us at darksidetourguides@gmail.com.